Hello everybody, it's Kenneth, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about managing finance in college as someone who is about to go to college, right? So this is a very important topic to know, especially if you know that you're not going to be able to cover the cost of college fully without something like a scholarship or a job. But if you know that, like, for example, your parents have enough money to fully pay for your tuition and living expenses, then maybe this isn't as important to you. But either way, you should try applying for scholarships and stuff, but we'll talk about that within the video. So, first, what is college finance? This is really managing money while attending college mainly, but also while preparing for college, such as when you buy things for your dorm if you live on campus. So, this is really like for tuition, housing, books, and daily living costs, as it says. And then there's multiple ways to sort of manage your college finances, and that's like budgeting, saving, borrowing, and financial aid, which we will talk about later in the video. But kind of one of the first major points I really wanted to talk about was public versus private colleges or universities. So a public university gets funding partly from the state they're in, from the government, and a private one doesn't. So a private one's more so like what you would think a business is. They fund themselves, right? And because of that, private schools will most of the time have a like one and done tuition. Everyone is paying the same tuition unless they're getting aid from the school or aid elsewhere. But pretty much everyone is paying the same tuition in state, out of state, and it's typically pretty expensive. Like I know, like many private schools are $60,000 to $80,000 a year, and that's expensive. And then there's public schools, and since many public schools are funded by the state they're in, they tend to have a lower tuition for in-state attendees. Like I know, for example, I live in Michigan, and I know that the University of Michigan has a much lower tuition for in-state residents than out-of-state residents, which is part of the reason that that is the university I'm looking to go to. And it's significantly lower too. If I remember correctly, out-of-state tuition is about 60,000 a year, and in-state tuition is about 15 to 20, right? And that's a huge difference. $40,000 difference, over 4 years that's 160,000. That adds up, and that's a lot of money. So, first, what is financial aid? Well, financial aid is you're being given money to go to college, right? But what types are there? There's grants, which are free money, and they're pretty much need based most of the time. And then there's scholarships, which are also free money, but they're sort of merit based or need based. They're kind of like your merits or your needs. There's many different requirements for different ones, and there's many scholarships, like the Coca-Cola scholarship, for example. And some may have you listing your athletic abilities, how good you are in like football, if you played football, and maybe you'll get money for that. Some, maybe you'll write a piece of literature or an essay talking about yourself or some other thing. And if it's really good, then they'll give you money. And some, it's purely merit based, and it's kind of random because there's a lot of people who have good grades and stuff. And so there's a lot of people who apply to those, right? Like if everyone has A's, then they kind of just have to randomly pick. Now, there's also work study, which is kind of just getting a job at your on your campus. Um, which I mean makes sense, right? You're getting a money from a job, and then there's loans, which you would typically want to avoid because no one really wants to go into debt, right? Debt is not good, and neither are the loans typically because there's a lot of interest on those, and so you have to pay back more than you get in the future. But if you need to take a loan out, then you need to take a loan out. And I would still recommend going to college with a loan. I think there are many benefits of going to college, not just education. Now, scholarships, what do you have to know? Well, you have to start early, right? Like late junior year, early senior year. You don't want to be doing it like the summer before you go to college. Many will probably have passed deadlines by then, and so there won't be that many available. And then there's search engines to find specific scholarships too, based on things like merit or do they require an essay? Do they not? What is it about? Is it local? Is it not? And some of these are like FastWeb or scholarships.com. And then competition. Well, a local scholarship will have less competition than a major scholarship. Like, for example, the Coca-Cola scholarship is very well known. Many people apply to it every year. Very hard to get money from. But if you find a local one in your area, then, well, obviously only local people would probably apply. And so you would likely get more money. And there are also scholarships from certain colleges or from certain businesses that are like, oh, you're applying for this major, then you're eligible for this scholarship, right? So some businesses, they'll give you money if you're doing a major they're interested in. And you should apply for many scholarships because most of them don't give you a full ride. And applying for many just means you're more likely to get more money, right? Makes sense. And then there are smart habits to do when managing your finances in college, such as budgeting, right? If money is a worry for you, then you need to budget your expenses. You don't want to spend too much and not be able to pay off anything that you need to, right? For example, rent. You don't want to spend too much money on like going out and then you don't have enough to pay your rent, perhaps in your third or fourth year of college if you're not on campus, like dorming, but you're still renting an apartment in the city or something. So you just want to budget and make sure you have enough to do these things, right? And then student discounts. Now, I know like Dell and Microsoft, they offer student discounts for devices, and this is something that you might be interested in if you're trying to save money because all you have to do is prove you're a student and then you get a discount, right? It's pretty simple. It's not hard to do. And there can be some good ones for some good devices or other things like books too, textbooks, and textbooks are expensive. So any discount you can get, it's helpful. An emergency fund. Now, some people may not think this is necessary, right? But the whole point of an emergency fund is if there's an emergency. You're not going to know if there's an emergency before it happens. So, like, say you break your arm or something, I mean, you're going to hope that you have money to pay off those medical bills, right? I mean, even with insurance, it'll still be expensive. So, you just want to make sure you have some money lying around in case something bad happens. And then, lastly, there's debt. And you don't want to get into debt. That's kind of the whole point of scholarships and stuff. Debt is bad. Now, if it's minimal debt with a low interest rate, then you should. I mean, you could explore taking that out and paying that back, and then. But you also have to think about like whatever you're majoring in. What is sort of a salary you're expecting in the future, right? Because that has to do with debt. Will you be able to pay this back in a timely manner? Will you be able to pay off enough so that it doesn't keep increasing and increasing, right? That's very important because if your debt just keeps piling up, then you're in a bad situation. And that's really all I have for you guys in this video. If you guys enjoyed this and found it helpful, please like and subscribe. Otherwise, just let us have any feedback in the comments below. Thank you guys. Have a good day.